You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and today on our Total Wellness Tuesday show, I'm looking forward to bringing you all of the benefits of mushrooms, and I will call it like a Benefits of Mushrooms 101, because what I want to do is I really want to break down, we'll call it the top 10 mushrooms and all of their different benefits, because different mushrooms, believe it or not, do different things in terms of your health. Some of them decrease inflammation, others help to kill cancer cells, some specific cancer cells to the breast tissue, to the prostate tissue. We'll talk about those as well. Some enhance overall energy. They bring more oxygen to the tissues. So pretty amazing. And again, these have been, not only have they been known about for thousands of years, they've been used specifically for thousands of years. They have found mummified corpses, and they found like what they called the Iceman, who was frozen, I think about 3,000 years ago, just frozen in ice. They found him with a little satchel of mushrooms, believe it or not, on his side that they carried around to boost their own immunity. And one mushroom I'll be talking about as well was actually found out about by goats roaming at very high altitudes, eating these specific mushrooms. And they looked at these goats and they realized how much energy they had. Pretty amazing find. Humans started eating the mushrooms. They gained that same type of energy and endurance. So I'll talk about that as well. Okay, so the first mushroom we're going to talk about today is called the white button mushroom. And I wanted to start with this one because it's the most well-known. So when you're at a salad bar or you're shopping at the grocery food store, you see this small little mushroom. It's the one that we think about when we see a mushroom. Now remember, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw me post my lion's mane mushroom before. There's no way if you saw that thing growing on the side of a tree, you would ever think that that was a mushroom. And so if you don't go to Instagram, check out Instagram.com/Stephen Cabral. Just scroll back a little bit. You will see this really gnarly looking mushroom. It's got all these like little tentacles hanging off of it. Almost like one of those little koosh balls they were called. I don't know if you remember those. It was like 15 years ago, we'll say. And you play these little things. They have all these little spiky things on them. Believe it or not, this is a mushroom with amazing properties to it. And lion's mane, really, we'll talk about that in a moment, is a phenomenal mushroom in its own right. But the white mushrooms, what I want to tell you is this. Certain foods in nature correlate with certain health benefits. So, for example, when you see anything red in nature like beets, they're excellent for the liver and they're excellent blood builders or blood cleansers. Anything red, really, deep red will help with that. So some of those things are, of course, pomegranates and tomatoes, but really beets, like the deeper that red, the better. And then when we look at things that are orange in nature, such as carrots or oranges or some of the citrus fruits like grapefruit, you will see that orange correlates with higher levels of vitamin C. So it's interesting. So when you look at all of those specific things, we can say, okay, there seems to be a pattern here. Now, in nature, when we see things that are white in color can mean that it boosts your immune system. So white button mushrooms, although if you look across the board, most mushrooms do boost your immune system. They do it because they contain things called beta-glucans. I'm not going to get into whether it's 1, 3, 6, but they contain beta-glucans, which can help balance white blood cells. Now, specifically with white button mushrooms, these are modern-day studies, even though they've known about this for thousands of years. Modern-day studies are now showing that white button mushrooms have been protective in both animal and human cells for both preventing breast cancer as well as prostate cancer. So I knew I had to pass that along to you because that's a huge benefit right there. And if it's something that runs in your family, you may want to add some white button mushrooms, just about a handful, a couple days a week to your food-based protocol. And you can do that for about 4 to 6 weeks to at least start to get that benefit. Remember, mushrooms in general are like anything. They take weeks as a supplement to start to accumulate in the body and get those great benefits. Okay, the other one that people really know about as well is called porcini mushrooms. So It's kind of like a portobello mushroom, and it's great at doing a few things. So it's a natural anti-inflammatory, but also if you have pathogenic cells, if you have mutated cells floating around in your blood, that means cells that have kind of gone haywire, that they've mutated into something not natural and that they're actually bad for your system. Well, porcini mushrooms, as well as other mushrooms, but specifically porcini, have what's called a cytotoxic effect, which is that they're going to go after these mutated cells and actually kill them and let them then just go through your liver and it'll be eliminated naturally through your body. So pretty remarkable. And one of the things is too, a lot of the longest lived populations, like especially Okinawans, they eat mushrooms like porcini mushrooms as part of their diet, which is not only good for the body, good for the brain, but also good for preventing cancer. And you're going to see that theme as we start to go through them. All right, another really popular mushroom as well is maitake. So maitake is along the same lines that it's anti-cancer, it's anti-inflammatory, but it's also antiviral. And I think this is a very specific one as well. Because a lot of times when we get a cold or we're fighting off an illness, we say, well, what mushrooms might be good for that? We're not going to look towards the button mushrooms for that. We're going to look more towards the maitake. Shiitake mushrooms can help with that, or shiitake, but the maitake mushrooms as well are going to help kill those cancer cells, but also kill those viruses that are floating around in your bloodstream as well. I like the fact that maitake mushrooms are also been shown to only go after the malignant cells. That means those mutated cells, the non-natural ones. By its own natural, basically plant-based effect, its natural from nature effect, it knows specifically, without having to be made in a lab, which cells are improper for the body, which ones are going to cause you issues, and then go after those ones specifically. Okay, another popular mushroom that's well known is called black truffle. Now, I believe it's the black truffle ones that can also be much more expensive if you were to buy black truffles on their own, like per ounce. I think they're like $100 per ounce. I mean, buy the black truffle oil. Absolutely delicious. A lot of people use them as part of cooking, and it can absolutely, a little bit goes a long way. But one thing that I want to talk about in terms of health benefits, besides this just, really nice taste, is the anandamide helps with more of the mental aspects. So it helps balance mood. It helps, if you're getting too high, it helps bring you back down a little bit lower, almost like an adaptogen. We talk about adrenal adaptogens like ashwagandha or rhodiola. Well, this is one of those as well. If you start to get too low in mood as well, it reduces those feelings of depression. It reduces those low moods and can bring you back up a little bit as well. And also, if you're feeling a little bit anxious, I know a lot of people now are talking about marijuana, talking about its use because it is becoming legalized in a lot of states. Massachusetts, where I practice, just became one of those states for medical use, and then eventually, I believe it's this December, for recreational use. Well, maitake mushrooms have also been shown not to give you that same high that you would get from THC, but more of like, where would it be from CBD oil? Something to help bring you up a little bit if you're feeling a little too anxious or maybe even a little too low in mood. So it might be something to check out as well. And that's that black truffle as well. So black truffle can be great for that too. So one that I like to talk about, one that I've seen great benefits as well, is a mushroom called chaga. So chaga, I've talked about this on Instagram. I've talked about it on previous Cabral Concepts on the Friday review. I talked about chaga tea. So if you want, you can check back to a previous episode. One of the easiest ways to get chaga is through tea, and I'll tell you why. Chaga comes as almost like a root, like a really dense calcified mushroom. And so the best way to get it is in powdered form. Now you can take it as capsules. It does absolutely work as a capsule, but you can also drink it as a tea. So you can use those chunks of chaga, or better yet, just buy the powder. You can buy it in the unbleached tea packets, and then you can make your own chaga tea, and you can sip this in the morning if you want a little bit boost in energy, boost in endurance. Chaga is great for that. But one of the big things about chaga, besides the energy benefits and mood benefits as well, is that it helps with DNA replication. So we talk about anti-cancer. We talk about inflammation. What we're talking about is the DNA, the replication inside of the cells, can start to become improper as we start to age, but also as those mitochondria inside of the cells, as the DNA inside of the cells, as the RNA inside of the cells starts to become toxic, meaning that we're taking in the plastics from the environment. We're taking in the environmental estrogens. We're taking in the pesticides. We're taking in fluoride. We're taking in chlorine. We're taking in all of these things which can literally disrupt our body's DNA. Well, chaga helps to balance that. And I'm telling you, one of the easiest ways to do that is simply chaga tea. Fantastic. You do it every mid-afternoon. It won't give you that caffeine spike because it doesn't have caffeine that would make you feel like you can't go to bed at night, but it will give you a nice little level, steady state that I think is great. And one of the best things about chaga is that it's very, very high in antioxidants, and that makes it absolutely fantastic at, again, helping to ward off inflammation, disease. Okay, a couple that I haven't named yet is a mushroom that I can never pronounce the name exactly perfect, so bear with me here. I believe it's called chanterelle mushrooms, or chanterelle. We'll just say it's called chanterelle. It's chanterelle. And so what chanterelle is known for is boosting your metabolism, not only in terms of weight loss, but even more so in terms of energy. So when we talk about metabolism, it's not always just about boosting our ability to burn body fat. It's not. It's our body's ability to move at a faster cellular rate. And one of the things that we need to do that, we've known this for a long time, is B vitamins. One of the number one nutritional supplements that I use in my practice for people with low energy is activated B vitamin. You can see it at our store. It's just StephenCabral.com/store. It's such an inexpensive vitamin. It's less than, I believe it's 60 capsules. And a lot of times I just say start with one capsule with breakfast with your overall shake. And one of the reasons why it's so nice, it contains all of your B vitamins plus their cofactors. So when you have that with breakfast, it gives you that energy boost. It gives you the brain energy as well as the cellular energy that you need to be lifted in both mind and body. So important. Now, I believe it's 60 capsules, so it might only cost like 50 cents a day. Very, very inexpensive. Overlooked. B vitamins, they really need to be a part of our diet. And the reason is this: hard to extract from food, less so from food. And also in terms of stress, our body's need for B vitamins goes up. And I don't know anybody who doesn't have a little bit of stress in their life. So one of my favorite things, chanterelle vitamins contains all of the B complex, especially B1, B2, B3, and B5. So a lot of these mushrooms as well, and I'm going to start talking about now, have some antifungal based properties. So antifungal based properties, I'm going to jump right now to my next one. One of my absolute favorites is called reishi. So reishi mushrooms was one that I started using a lot after I came back from my study in China. So I studied traditional Chinese medicine at a hospital in China. It was a traditional Chinese medicine hospital, but it was state of the art. So meaning like there was a wing for x-rays and everything that everybody needed, right? But then they practiced from a standard traditional Chinese medicine background. One of the most popular mushrooms that they were using was reishi mushrooms. Now keep in mind, there's over 5 million different funguses, and we'll just call mushrooms as part of those funguses, in the world. So we're just going over 10 right now. And not even all the mushrooms have been studied completely. I'm just giving you like the top 10 with really good research and study behind them. But reishi mushrooms is one of my favorite, and this is why. I haven't given this a lot of talk. It gets complicated, but there's something called TH1, TH2 balance within the immune system. And a lot of people who have allergies, who have asthma, who have a lot of chronic-based illnesses, who are really worn down, tired, fibromyalgia, have a big time imbalance with too much of a push of what's called TH2 immune imbalance, meaning it's revved up on TH2. And it's kind of imbalanced with TH1, not enough TH1 immune cells or immune system functionality in order to battle all of these things like candida or bacterial overgrowth or parasites or any viruses that come into the body. So these people get a little bit more colds and sicknesses more often, where their counterparts, people have really high in TH1, might get some of the psoriasis issues, but they fight off colds really well. It's interesting to look at. So one of the things is reishi helps to fix that imbalance, and it's also natural anti-candida. So I told you who mushrooms might not be good for. Well, a lot of people with candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, or bacterial overgrowth should not be using funguses. They should not be using molds, funguses, anything like that, any fermented foods, and that's because they already have an overgrowth of yeast in their body. They should not put any more funguses in their body. You can test this by doing an organic acid test. It will show you, and again, that's on the website as well. But here's the thing. So I do eliminate those. I say typically no mushrooms for about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, but reishi is one of those exceptions because, again, it's natural antifungal. Now, you have to understand, you have to work with a health practitioner. And again, it doesn't have to be a doctor, but you have to work with a health practitioner who's well versed in all of these things. People give out anti-candida detox plans, parasite plans, without really knowing what they're doing. And again, they're not ill-intentioned, not at all. They want to help, but they don't know the intricacies. They don't know those fine details because you shouldn't be eating mushrooms if you have a yeast overgrowth or candida overgrowth. However, like I said, reishi is one of those. And again, reishi mushrooms have not only been shown as antifungal, antibacterial, they've been shown as anti-cancer, they're known as a longevity mushroom. So reishi mushrooms are to traditional Chinese medicine as what like ashwagandha or tulsi or triphala is to Ayurveda. It's one of those ones that almost everybody could benefit from. So like in functional medicine, everybody needs magnesium, right? We kind of laugh when we say that, but it's one of those ones where almost every person in the world could benefit from those things like B vitamins, maybe a little extra zinc, some magnesium, some reishi, some ashwagandha, some tulsi, some triphala. Triphala, again, if you have candida overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, you don't want to use that one. But what I'm doing is I'm just kind of joking around, but I am showing you, joking around from a functional medicine perspective, which of course is a whole different sense of humor. But what I'm saying is that most people can benefit from these things, and reishi being one of those, and just really great studies to back up these as well. So let me just give you one or two more so I don't make the show too long. Oyster mushrooms specifically. So a lot of people say like, oh, well, natural medicine doesn't have anything really for cancer. They don't really have anything for HIV. Well, oyster mushrooms kind of puts the, kibosh in this blanket statement of, oh, natural medicine doesn't have any cures for that. They do. So natural medicine has been around longer than any other type of medicine because it's what we were given. Literally, this planet gave us everything that we need to combat any ill that we're to come across. The hardest thing right now is these synthetic man-made toxins. So that's a much more challenging thing. We can still deal with it, but it's changing our DNA. It's actually mutating our cells. But what's happening is this, is that if we look to nature, we can still find the things that our body needs to detoxify naturally on a daily basis. But one thing about these oyster mushrooms is this, is that they're very strong in B vitamins. They're cholesterol-free. They're actually known to help lower cholesterol, which is pretty amazing. They're almost like a natural statin, which I think is absolutely fantastic. They're great for the liver. Anything great for the liver then is going to help the liver function better. So it's then going to help to be anti-cancer. So right now, the therapeutic benefits actually in the International Journal of Oncology, which is, just amazing, right? This was published in the International Journal of Oncology in 2008. It was shown to be effective and therapeutic to preventing and working to cure breast cancer and colon cancer. Amazing, really powerful. And if you're a woman with breast cancer, with colon cancer, you may want to think about using a mushroom mix. Maybe not all year round, but something that you could use if that's kind of family history as well. And of course, making sure you really improve your liver. Okay, shimeji, I believe, is the name of this mushroom as well, or shimeji. And this is a fantastic one. This is a Japanese mushroom. So traditional Japanese, used in cooking, but really known as a powerful, powerful anti-inflammatory. Any of these mushrooms can be added to your cooking. Absolutely. You can add them to really any dish, any soup, any stew. That will be great. This one's exceptionally high in beta-glucans and has been shown to be very powerful against allergies and asthma. So again, we're using specific mushrooms from a natural perspective to combat all of these diseases, as we call it, a dis-ease of the body, to help the body naturally rebalance itself. So I believe that was my top 10 there. I kind of jumped around to a lot of my favorites. One that I just kind of throw in, or let's just say two, is lion's mane and cordyceps. Those are two other ones that if you're into performance, if you are into think about how do you boost your brain power? How do you become more cognitively adapted, which means more focused, better able to retain information, work on the aging process of the brain. Lion's mane, absolutely fantastic for that. Absolutely fantastic for anti-aging. Great for cognition. Cordyceps. That was the one I was talking about. In the Andes Mountains, these shepherds, they would see these sheep, they would see goats up in the mountains. With unbelievable endurance, they saw them eating this specific type of mushroom called cordyceps or fungus. They started eating that in their own diet. They found their ability to climb at very high altitudes, or again, where the blood's becoming thinned, you are able to improve in terms of athletic performance. So if you want to add cordyceps to your diet, not necessarily just right before a workout, they need to be in your system for a period of weeks. Try a nutritional supplement formula that contains cordyceps as well. And there are some great ones out there. If you can, try to find organic or try to find wild harvested mushrooms whenever possible. So hopefully the show was interesting. Again, I like to bring you things from different perspectives that you may never hear from anywhere else. So if you weren't taking notes, maybe you want to rewind, write down some of your favorites, or again, if this show, maybe it doesn't help you, but if this show could benefit anyone else you know, please feel free to share those notes with them, or just feel free to share this whole podcast with them. I'd love for all of us to be able to share this message. Again, I didn't make this information up. I didn't do the research on these mushrooms. What I did was I accumulate all of this research. I look at everything across the board: conventional, functional medicine, orthomolecular medicine, naturopathic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, you name it, I'm looking at it so that I can assimilate it, really break down the complex into nice bite-sized chunks of information, and then hopefully give it to you with real action plans. Like, here's the mushroom, here's what it's good for. Try it out 4 to 6 weeks. Did you get benefit? Yes or no? And sometimes you'll never feel the benefit, especially if you're trying to do preventative maintenance. So thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral Concept. I really do appreciate each and every one of your listens. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.